This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
And welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. And as always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. So, here's what's going on today. For the first segment, we will be recapping that Monday Night Football game between the Seahawks and Bears. Russell Wilson kind of disappointed me in that one. I mean, his offensive line didn't really give him any help. We'll be talking about the Bears also for that first segment. Second segment, we'll be getting into the MLB. Third segment, we have a lot of NFL news to cover that we didn't get to yesterday, so we'll be doing that. And then for the fourth segment, we will be talking about anything else going on in the world of sports, as I always do. And it's much earlier than usual, as I'm recording this. Much earlier. I don't understand how people wake up at 6 o'clock every day. And there's even those of you who wake up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. Those who do that every morning, I salute you. Me, I'm just some college kid, so I'm not used to this. Because I schedule my classes later on in the day, as one should. But either way, we're here, ready to go. And now we must talk football. So we had both of these teams going 0-1 week one, with Seattle losing to Denver, Chicago losing to Green Bay. I mean, Chicago very well could have been 2-0 after yesterday, given if they don't pretty much just, for lack of a better term, wet the bed against the Packers in that second half. But anyway, Chicago came out on top here, and I mean, I guess you could say like the better team throughout the game. They won 24-17. Looking at Seattle, you had Russell Wilson, who actually we'll start off with Chicago. So Mitch Trubisky, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Threw both of those picks to Shaquille Griffin. I know Seattle's really excited about him. And I'm not sure if it's just excitement or rather, okay, we really need this guy to take over after Sherman is gone. So let's talk him up a lot. But either way, he handled business yesterday with the 2 interceptions, like I said. But I'd say Mitch played pretty well. Mitch Trubisky also took off with the ball 5 times, ran for 24 yards. Jordan Howard couldn't really get going on the ground. 14 carries for 35 yards. Tariq Cohen got 4 carries for 8 yards. So Seattle's defensive line and linebackers did well to limit the run there. Looking at the receiving numbers for Chicago, Allen Robinson, 10 receptions, 83 yards. Jordan Howard, 3 receptions, 33 yards. Taylor Gabriel had 4 receptions for 30 yards. Had one where Trubisky overthrew him, I believe it was in the first half. I mean, he was wide open all by himself. If Trubisky hits him, then it's an easy touchdown there. Trey Burton, 4 receptions, 20 yards, and a touchdown. Got that touchdown off of a shovel pass. Tariq Cohen had 1 catch for 17 yards. Anthony Miller, who, I mean, we'll get into the stats first. So Anthony Miller had 2 receptions for 11 yards and a touchdown there. Looking at Seattle, Russell Wilson, 22 of 36, 226 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. 1 interception, was sacked 6 times. Rashad Penny had 10 carries for 30 yards. Chris Carson, 6 carries for 24 yards. Russell Wilson took off with it 3 times for 17 yards. And the receiving numbers look like this. Tyler Lockett, 5 receptions for 60 yards and a touchdown. Brandon Marshall, 4 receptions, 44 yards. Will Dissly continued his little hot streak from week 1. 3 receptions, 42 yards, and a touchdown there. Might be someone you need to look at on the waiver wire for your fantasy team. Jaron Brown, 3 receptions for 36 yards. Nick Vanette, 3 receptions, 23 yards. CJ Prosise, 3 receptions, 22 yards. And let's see anything else notable. That's pretty much it right there. So taking a look at the scoring plays of the game, courtesy of ESPN. let's see. Trey Burton caught that shovel pass in the first quarter, which made it 7-0. Then you had Parkey kicking a field goal, which made it 10-0. Janikowski gets one on the board late in the second quarter, which makes it 10-3. Anthony Miller gets his first touchdown pass of the year in the fourth, which makes it 17-3. Then you got Lockett, who, made a nice little catch right here. You had the corner draped all over, and Russell Wilson put in a spot where it's either Lockett's going to get it or no one's going to get it, and that's basically what they preach out there for quarterbacks. He scored, which made it 17-10 Chicago still. And on this next touchdown for Chicago was a pick six by Prince Amukamara. Russell Wilson, I'm not really sure what he was seeing when he threw this ball, what he was thinking when he threw this ball, because, it's pretty easy to see that if the corner is right behind the receiver you're trying to get it to, more times than not, he's going to jump the route and he's going to pick it off. I feel like this is a throw that Russell Wilson knew he shouldn't have made. Well, he should have known not to make it. And, that's one where he's got to do better. I always talk about Russell Wilson being a top 5 quarterback, and he's number 5. But either way, you can't be making mistakes like this, especially considering the fact that your team especially needs you, and you're down by 1 score at this point. So this is basically what killed the game off. So you got Amukamara with the pick six, and then Disley gets his touchdown, with like 14 seconds left, which made it 24-17. Game was already over at that point. And Russell Wilson, we do talk him up a lot. At least I do. But he does make those boneheaded mistakes from time to time. And I guess every quarterback does. But like I said, that pick six seemed pretty inexcusable. I don't think it was one where it was Chicago's defense was dominant or anything like that, where Russell Wilson had no chance. Yes, Chicago's defense was solid, but that's one where I don't really think it's anything special. It's just the fact that Russell Wilson made a boneheaded mistake. One, like I said, he shouldn't have threw it there. It probably looked somewhere else. And you look at their running backs. Rashad Penny, 10 carries, 30 yards. Chris Carson had 6 carries for 24 yards, I think I said. I'm not sure if Seattle's just this bad at scouting and drafting running backs, or it's something else. And I feel like it's more so the first than the latter. I don't understand how, since Marshawn Lynch, they haven't been able to find a running back who could basically fill that void. And again, maybe it's too early to count out Rashad Penny. I do think him being drafted in the first round was a bit high. I think he could have been a second, third, fourth rounder type running back, honestly. You look at him, yeah, he's good, but who's drafted a San Diego State running back in the first round? Not many. And I think teams will kind of look at the school and say, oh yeah, he'll fall or whatnot. Well, not fall, but this is his range. So, I guess Seattle's problems really just rested on the offense here. The defense played well. They only gave up about 17 points. Picked off Trubisky twice. This one's on the offense here for Seattle. And I have no problem saying that. And that's very rare, I think. No. Seattle's always had a very solid defense. And, last week they gave up 27, which was a problem. This week they gave up 17. Of course, the other 7 points coming from Mukamura. So we'll see what ends up happening. And even though Russell Wilson really didn't play well yesterday, you probably can't attribute that to the fact that the guy got sacked 6 times. That's still a problem in Seattle, and that's always been a problem in Seattle. I don't understand how they haven't been able to generate a solid offensive lineup. Solid offensive line, I should say. And people will say, oh, well, Russell Wilson's getting paid all this money, so they can't. No, that's not how things work. You're supposed to do it through drafting and all that. And if you can't, then you have another problem there. But looking at Chicago, Mitch Trubisky he played well. 200 yards. The guy's not throwing for over 300 yards or anything like that. He's not a Patrick Mahomes. But it seems like he's fitting in well in this offense. And Trubisky still has some kinks in his game that he's got to work out. Meaning, last season he only played about half a season and really didn't get much of an opportunity to, get it completely going. Meaning John Fox sometimes would just have him throw the ball 6 times a game and would basically handcuff Trubisky on this offense, not really allowing him to do much. Now this is his first season with some actual freedom to, basically do what he can as a quarterback. So I do expect him to be a bit off and on, but I don't expect him to lose games for Chicago. Meaning, he's always going to be good enough to where you can win. Of course, you're not always going to win, but either way, Trubisky seems like he might just be the answer for Chicago's quarterback problem over the last few years. Like I said, I'm impressed with the fact that they were able to win this game and, like I said, be ahead the entire time, given the fact that they couldn't really run the ball. This was a game that Trubisky basically had to go out and win for that offense, and he did that. You look at Allen Robinson, he's really pretty much picking up where he left off, 10 receptions for 83 yards. I'd like to see Anthony Miller get more involved, but I get Trubisky, has his guy in Allen Robinson, so I guess with Anthony Miller, it seems like this with every receiver that's came out the last few years, Ridley, Moore, you got Miller, Treadwell, and all those guys, is that they don't really get going in their first years. They need a couple years of development, maybe 2 years of development at least before they really start showing you what they can do. So, I know a lot of these guys are going to get labeled busts way too early, and I'm not saying Miller or any of the guys this year are busts or anything like that. The casual fan will look at it and say, why isn't this guy getting it done? Why isn't he the number one guy already if we spent a first-round pick on him? So, we'll see how the rest of the season plays out for both these teams. Seattle obviously not out to the start that they wanted to be in. And Chicago, nice little pick-me-up after losing last week. So, we'll see what ends up happening. Next football game we got is on Thursday night between the Jets and Browns. I will be talking about that one a little bit tomorrow and also Thursday. So we're going to wrap it up here. Next segment, I will be talking MLB news, so stay tuned, and I will be right back.
The average sedan is built with a steel frame and equipped with 6 airbags. Remember this the next time you see someone walking. Drivers, be aware. Pedestrians don't have armor. A message from the California Office of Traffic Safety. The average SUV has 2 blind spots, weighs between 4,000 and 6,000 pounds, and takes about 6 seconds to stop. Remember this the next time you're on foot. Pay attention, people. Pedestrians don't have armor. A message from the California Office of Traffic Safety.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. Spent that first segment talking about the Monday Night Football game between Seattle and Chicago. Chicago winning that one 24-17. A pick six by Prince Amukamara. Basically what wrapped it up for Chicago in that game. Defense played really well. Trubisky got the job done at the quarterback spot, given the running backs didn't really get going in that one. Not sure really what Russell Wilson saw in that pick six, but definitely shouldn't have made that throw and needs to be better at that point. So we move on, and now we talk MLB. Looking at it, Christian Yelich, the dude hit another cycle. I don't know how you don't give him the NL MVP. I know Javi Baez over in Chicago has been great. And I guess this adds kind of a bit of spice to that so-called rivalry between the Brewers and Cubs. I'm not really sure what rivalry is there. Either way, it's one that I guess we're trying to make a thing here. So you look at it, they're 2 of the best teams in the NL. And they have 2 potential MVP candidates. One each. One being Christian Yelich and the other being Javi Baez. And I got to think that Yelich hitting for the cycle in this one kind of just puts him over the top as far as his potential MVP resume. So we'll see what ends up happening as far as who ends up winning it. I think my pick is Christian Yelich. And is it Yelich or is it Yelich? I'm going to call him Yelich. So either way, like I said, we'll see what ends up happening. And also, who knows? Maybe the Brewers end up finishing in first. We'll check the standings and scores for the rest of the games that went on yesterday. But, the Brewers are a team that if anyone was going to knock the Cubs out the playoffs, it'd be them. And that's a little tough considering that maybe Milwaukee's going to have to be playing in that wild card game. Assuming so, it'd be against St. Louis. Maybe the Dodgers have something to say about that. But like I said, we'll get into all that in a little bit. You got the Orioles, who came away with their 107th loss last night. What has Buck Showalter done in order to stay around? I mean, since he's taken over, the Orioles haven't been a perennial playoff contender where they're making it every year. They haven't gotten deep in the playoffs in the years that they did. And they've been bad more than they've been good. So I ask again, what has Buck Showalter done to show that he deserves to stay around there as long as he has? And I'm assuming that they'd be smart enough to get rid of him after this season. But can I count on that? No. I mean, how could you? Like I said, the guy stuck around after bad season after bad season. Like, sure, he makes the playoffs here and there. But has he really impressed you since he's been with the Orioles? I'd say no. And maybe it's just a respect thing. Maybe he just is really respected around the league and has basically carved out a spot for himself no matter what. But there's a problem going on with this Orioles team, and it's been going on for a while. Like, this team has been bottom of the dumpster for a few years, and it seems like nothing has really changed. There's been no improvement or anything like that. You look at a team like the Tampa Bay Rays. I mean, people don't go to Rays games. The opposing team's fans show up more than the home team does, the home team's fans. But the Rays have still done well to develop and improve over the last few years. I mean, the Rays have never really been this amazing team or anything like that. And like I said, they still managed to get by. And now they're what? About 16, 17 games over 500. Next season are going to be a problem in the AL East. And we kept asking ourselves this year, why do the Red Sox and Yankees keep losing to the A's or the Rays? And I think we found our answer. It's just the Rays have been a good team all season long. I don't think any of us really realized it up until this final point of the season. I mean, you look at the Rays, I believe they got a better record than the Dodgers. They're right there as far as records with the Indians, the Braves. The Rays played in any other division other than the AL East, they'd probably be in a playoff race right now. But I guess that's just the way baseball goes. But like I said, getting back to Buck Showalter and the Orioles, I mean, 107 losses is inexcusable. I don't see how they bring them back, but I would not be shocked at all if they kept them again for another year. So we'll see what ends up happening there. Let's take a look at the scores from yesterday, and we'll look at the games that are going to be starting up today. So for Monday the 17th, looking at it, you had the Blue Jays beating the Orioles, like I said, 5-0 there. I mean, the Orioles only came away with 3 hits there. They've lost 107. They've won 43. Obviously not great. The Mets beat the Phillies 9-4. Mets are 10 games under 500. Obviously, we know they're out of playoff contention and all that, but somehow, some way, even with this bad season, it doesn't just, like, the record-wise doesn't show how bad they've actually been, I'd say. Pirates beat the Royals 7-6. Twins beat the Tigers 6-1. Marlins beat the Nationals 8-5. Cardinals beat the Braves 11-6. You had the Brewers beating up on the Reds 8-0. Like I said, Christian Yelich hitting for his second cycle of the year. Rays beat the Rangers 3-0. Let's see, Mariners beat the Astros 4-1. Helps out Oakland a bit there. You had the Cubs beating the Diamondbacks 5-1, and the Dodgers dominating the Rockies 8-2. Rockies really can't afford to drop this series, I mean, if they want to maintain first place in the division. And then you had the Giants beating the Padres 4-2. Looking at tonight's games for Tuesday, we got the Red Sox and Yankees playing at 4:05 Pacific time. Like I said, Red Sox, I think if they win 2 out of 3, will be able to clinch the division. Blue Jays continuing their series with the Orioles. I mean, I don't see the Orioles winning this game and many others to finish out the season. The Mets continuing their series with the Phillies. Phillies should pick this one up given Aaron Nola's pitching, but you never know with the Phillies given how bad they've been. Royals playing the Pirates later on tonight. You got White Sox, Indians, Twins, Tigers, Nationals, Marlins, Cardinals, Braves continuing their series, Reds, Brewers, Rays, Rangers, Blake Snell pitching against Giovanni Gallardo today. The Rays should take that one, and yeah, you get the Rays currently 17 games over 500 at 83 and 66. Mariners going up against the Astros. Cubs, Diamondbacks, that'll be a fun little series right there. Angels heading to Oakland to face off with the A's. I mean, you had Houston dropping a game last night. So, the A's are, I think, officially now 4 games back. Maybe if the Astros completely struggle against the Mariners and the A's are able to sweep the Angels, we got ourselves a bit of a divisional race in the AL West. Rockies, Dodgers, I mean, things aren't looking good for the Rockies tonight. Yeah, you get Kyle Freeland going, but you're going against Clayton Kershaw. And then you get Giants, Padres to wrap up the night. So let's take a look at the standings and see what's going on, updating it after the day. AL East, Red Sox, 11.5 games up on the Yankees. We pretty much already know what's going on there. Indians, like I said, won their division. The Astros are, like I said, 4 games up on the A's. Braves, 6.5 up on the Phillies. Cubs, 2.5 up on the Brewers, 5.5 up on the Cardinals. And then you got the Dodgers, who are now a half game up on the Rockies and 5 up on the Diamondbacks after being a half game down behind the Rockies before last night's game. So you're looking at the wild card race. Yankees, a game and a half up on the A's. This is one where the A's are playing a pretty bad team. Yankees are always playing the best team in baseball. Maybe the A's end up taking that top spot after the next few days. Brewers, 3 games up on the Cardinals in that top spot. Cardinals sitting by themselves in that second spot on the wild card. They're half game up on the Rockies, 5 up on the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks are done. They had a nice little run, but it's just not going to be happening this year. And I feel pretty comfortable saying that. But, I mean, you look at it. I'd say right now in the NL, the only teams fighting for playoff spots would be the Diamondbacks, Rockies, Cardinals, Brewers. Well, Brewers, I wouldn't say so. It's the Cardinals, Rockies, and Dodgers. Everyone else is pretty set up. I feel comfortable saying the Brewers are going to get in, at least into the wild card game. They could come back and end up overtaking the division in the NL Central, but I don't see the Cubs losing that. And as far as the AL goes, we already know who our playoff teams are. It's just a matter of who's playing who when it comes to the ALDS. We'll probably have Astros, Indians. It's a matter of do we get Red Sox, Yankees, or Red Sox, A's, depending on the winner of that wild card game. I'd like to see Red Sox, A's. I mean, I want to see what this A's team is made of. I want to see if it was all just regular season hype or if they can actually get something done in the playoffs. Because, I mean, they've never really been a team since they won the World Series back in '99 who have really done anything. But it'll be interesting. And like I said, I'm definitely not opposed to a Yankees-Red Sox ALDS. I mean, Yankees-Red Sox in the playoffs is about as good as it gets. So we'll see what ends up happening. Either way, I'm going to wrap it up here. Next up, we'll be getting into more NFL storylines. So stay tuned, and I will be right back.
The average sedan is built with a steel frame and equipped with 6 airbags. Remember this the next time you see someone walking. Drivers, be aware. Pedestrians don't have armor. A message from the California Office of Traffic Safety.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. So far today, we've talked Monday Night Football and also MLB news, along with the scores and standings updated after yesterday. Now we move on, and we talk about some NFL news now. So, obviously, the Josh Gordon trade went down yesterday, and I mean, I see a lot of people are quick to say this is going to be just like Randy Moss and all. And again, my issue is, what did Randy Moss really do off the field? And I get, before, when he was in high school, he got into trouble and all that, and was supposed to go to Florida State. But like I said, he got arrested, I think it was, and ended up having to go to Marshall. But what in his NFL career did Randy Moss actually do? And I might just be drawing a blank, but I don't think I am. I don't think Randy Moss really did anything off the field that really hurt him. I mean, I don't see why Randy Moss, like maybe Randy Moss took a few plays off here and there, but there was really no problems with him off the field. I mean, Randy Moss coming from a bad situation in Oakland is not even close to the same thing as Josh Gordon getting suspended year after year for smoking and showing up late to the team facilities and injuring his hamstring in a promotional shoot that has nothing to do with the team. So how about we stop being so lazy with the comparisons here and do better? Again, I think this hurts Randy Moss a bit because now you're acting like Randy Moss got into trouble while he was in the NFL. Like, no, he didn't. We don't equate Randy Moss and Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon, yeah, was a knucklehead. Yeah, Josh Gordon made a lot of mistakes. He's the one with off-the-field issues, not Randy Moss. I feel like once Randy Moss got to the NFL, he pretty much cleaned his act up. Again, before he got to the NFL, sure. Before he went to Marshall, sure. But don't give me this whole, this is the Randy Moss deal all over again, because it's not. It's not even close to the same thing. I mean, you look at their abilities also. We're talking about one of the greatest receivers of all time compared to a guy who, when he does play and has his head on straight and is able to stick around, he's a top 5 receiver. But how often do we see that? So, yeah, I'd say the Randy Moss comparisons are really lazy. And analysts and people who are making those comparisons need to do better. Now, do I see this being something that ends up working out well and maybe where Josh Gordon has a Randy Moss-like year? Well, I don't think Josh Gordon will have any type of year like Randy Moss in 2007. I mean, Randy Moss that year was absolutely ridiculous, and no one really came close to him. I mean, let me pull up his stats from Pro Football Reference here, just so I could take another deep look at what he did in 2007. Because I know he had 23 touchdowns, but I'm more curious to how many yards and all that. So looking at it, I mean, his first year with New England, he had 98 receptions, 1,500 yards, 23 touchdowns. Josh Gordon has put numbers like that up before. But, I mean, he ain't putting up those touchdown numbers this season, that's for a fact. And I'm not sure whether or not he's going to be playing this year. Or playing this week, I should say, against Detroit. But if he does, are you starting him on your fantasy team? That's a bit of a tough question there. Just considering, I mean, is he going to be able to pick up that Patriots playbook after only a few days? I mean, I think that's a question we can all ask ourselves. And I'm looking at Randy Moss. I mean, he was a lot better in those 3 years with New England than we give him credit for. I mean, in 2008, he got 69 passes for 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns. And in 2009, his final year with New England, he caught 83 passes for over 1,200 yards, 13 touchdowns there. So, yeah, I'm not with the whole comparing this Josh Gordon trade to Randy Moss because, like I said, it's nowhere near the same. I mean, it's real lazy. But either way, I mean, you look at it, it's can we do anything about the Patriots? I mean, this happens year after year, and it's ridiculous. Like, we came into the season knowing that they had problems at wide receiver, but I don't think any of us were really too worried about it because you just have that feeling and you know, basically, the problem's going to get fixed. And it did. Easily. I mean, putting Josh Gordon on that team basically takes away all problems that they had. Because now Tom Brady has his choice after week 4 to throw to Josh Gordon, Julian Edelman, Rob Gronkowski, and Chris Hogan. I mean, there are no wide receiver problems for the Patriots going forward. And that's just ridiculous. Like I said, how we know they're going to get fixed up. And it's just they do it year after year. I don't know why we continue to doubt them. But I guess that's just the way it goes, huh? And you're looking at it, I mean, like I said, I'm not sure exactly how much he's going to play this Sunday. I know his hamstring was a problem. I guess he got an MRI. According to NFL Network, the MRI came out fine on his hamstring. And like I said, I think if you got Josh Gordon on your team, then you wait a week. even if he goes off, I mean, that's fine. But there's always the chance that he just completely blows it and doesn't play well this week just because he hasn't grasped the playbook or anything like that. And I mean, it's going to take time. But, I mean, he's going to be a top receiver with that team. And this isn't something that's necessarily going to work out. I mean, you look at it. He can still have off-the-field issues. Like, Josh Gordon isn't completely in the clear, and I don't think Josh Gordon ever will be completely on the clear. I mean, there's a reason why he got taken in the supplemental draft. There's a reason why he was suspended twice for a year. I mean, the guy has had problems. So let's pump the brakes a bit and see how this ends up officially working out. So let's see any other news going on in the NFL. Deshaun Jackson got asked about Ryan Fitzpatrick, who should be the starter once Jameis is not suspended anymore, week 4. Deshaun Jackson, I mean, basically said the Bucs you can't bench Fitzpatrick. And I get that. And I think I kind of agree with this point. I mean, as far as the football scheme of things go and all that, you got to win games. I get there's a long-term play here, and Jameis Winston is the long-term guy. And at least I think you got to play him a bit just in order to figure out whether or not he's your guy. But I guess that can wait until Fitzpatrick has his Fitzpatrick game. I mean, the guy's throwing for over 400 yards in the first 2 weeks. Touchdowns left and right. I know Deshaun Jackson's happy about the fact that Fitzpatrick's the QB right now because, I mean, Fitzpatrick is hitting him with all these deep passes. You get Deshaun Jackson scoring a 75-yard touchdown on the first play of the game against the Eagles week 2. So I guess, yeah, I kind of have changed my mind. It's just kind of like, how can you go away from Fitzpatrick? Of course, I mean, they'll have Jameis for another year next, and I guess that'll give them an idea on what they want to do. But Jameis is in a bit of a hot seat here, and so is Marcus Mariota. I mean, those two quarterbacks came out in the draft at the same time. Jameis going 1, Mariota coming 2, and I'd say neither has really lived up to the expectations that they came in with. I mean, Jameis Winston has all the tools to be a top 10 quarterback in the league, but I think immaturity is something that's really hurt him on and off the field, and the guy still hasn't fixed his turnover problem. You look at Mariota, it seems that he's an average to above average quarterback at best. And I'm more inclined to think that the guy is just average. Harsh, possibly, but I think true. I mean, the Titans are winning games. Won a game, beat the Texans without him. With Blaine Gabbert playing. Gabbert didn't really have to go out and do much. And you look at the game against Miami, like I've said. I mean, once Mariota came out, the Titans actually started moving the ball. So, I mean, I'd say Tennessee has more of a quarterback problem than Tampa Bay does. I mean, at least Tampa Bay can ride Fitzpatrick out until it doesn't work anymore, and then you got Jameis. And right now, I'd take Jameis over Marcus Mariota. And that's the way it's been for years. I mean, the last couple of years I've kind of wavered towards Mariota, thinking he was better. But, I mean, last year he was awful. This year, he had one game, didn't really play well, came out injured. And even in the preseason, he looked terrible. So, Tennessee definitely does have a quarterback problem. But, is there anything else going on? Speaking of Fitzpatrick, there's a Fitzpatrick on the Dolphins. Minka Fitzpatrick, he actually trademarked for the phrase Fitzmagic. That's what we've called Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's been his nickname. It seems people aren't too happy about the fact that Fitzpatrick claimed it. But I guess that's what they were calling him in Alabama. So I guess he can't really do anything there. I don't necessarily think Ryan Fitzpatrick is too worried about it. But we'll see what ends up happening as the season progresses as far as Tampa Bay's quarterback situation. And as far as Tennessee goes, I mean, yeah, they do got problems there. So that's all I got to say about that. Next up, we will be talking about anything else going on in the world of sports. So stay tuned, and I will be right back.
The average SUV has 2 blind spots, weighs between 4,000 and 6,000 pounds, and takes about 6 seconds to stop. Remember this the next time you're on foot. Pay attention, people. Pedestrians don't have armor. A message from the California Office of Traffic Safety.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. So far today, we talked Monday Night Football, MLB, and some NFL news in that third segment. Now we move on and talk about anything else going on in the world of sports. Sometimes I just wish Oscar De La Hoya would stay out of the spotlight and just go away. I'm not a De La Hoya fan or anything like that, but he sent out a letter to the media titled An Open Letter to Fight Fans. ESPN's got an article on it, so I'm going to read some of the excerpts from it. Well, I think they might have the whole thing on here, so just get it started. And I quote, "On the night of Saturday, September 15th, fans were set to be treated to what sports should be all about, the two best athletes in a sport squaring off against each other, with the winner earning the title of the best in the business. This kind of an event where an individual can be called the best in any sport is truly rare. Not only did the fight itself deliver all that was promised against all kinds of pressure, Canelo Alvarez gave the performance of his lifetime to secure the unified middleweight championship of the world. Unfairly criticized for not fighting Mexican enough in the first fight, he kept Gennady Golovkin on his heels all night, taking the action to the boogeyman of boxing, walking him down and controlling the pace, repeatedly ravaged for 2 positive drug tests that showed minor traces of clenbuterol, a common occurrence in Mexico due to the contamination of beef across the country. Canelo submitted to more than 20 drug tests in the lead up to the fight and passed them all with flying colors. Saddled with a judge's card of a year ago that he had nothing to do with, the pressure of millions of fans watching and what many were describing as a must-win to stay relevant, Canelo delivered a near-flawless fight. I don't know about near-flawless. Canelo easily could have lost that fight if he didn't win a lot of the early rounds given. Triple G wiped the floor with him for those last 3 or 4 rounds. Let's see if there's anything else with it. And yet, it wouldn't be boxing if thousands of keyboard warriors weren't talking or tweeting complete nonsense in the hours and days after Canelo began to cement his legacy as an all-time great fighter. Many have told me to ignore the haters, that I'll never win, but while I know I won't convince many of them, allowing them to even partly soil what was a certain fight of the year, a mega event seen by millions of people, and a virtuoso performance by boxing's marquee fighter would do a disservice to the sport I love. Give me a break. Let's see. He talks a little bit on some accusations that Golden Boy paid the judges to fix the fight. Though I don't think this deserves any response, even though you're giving it one, here are the facts. 3 judges were chosen by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, given the result of the first fight. NSAC was under a lot of scrutiny to come up with the fairest group of judges possible. For the first time I know of, GBP and Team Triple G were even allowed to approve a pool of judges. They saw what everyone else did, a close competitive fight, and scored it exactly that way. Let's see. I don't need to get into all the other stuff as far as, the letter. It's basically talking about the scorecard, CompuBox numbers, and Triple G being ahead of those. He says if landed punches were the difference between winning and losing a boxing match, we would have incredibly different and less entertaining sport. Why did De La Hoya is a diva. That's it. De La Hoya is the biggest diva in the world. Okay? I'm Mexican. My family's Mexican. My entire family's Mexican. They love De La Hoya. I can't stand De La Hoya. I have a lot of pride when a Mexican fighter is fighting and all that. But I'm willing to acknowledge when the opposing fighter wins and all. Given, I want to make it far here. But De La Hoya, I've never been a fan of his at all. I feel like he's always been a diva. And why release a statement like this? Why? What's the point? You can clearly tell, I guess, that the keyboard warriors were getting to him. That's the only reason why you acknowledge them. And then you got him acknowledging that they didn't pay the judges. Why do that? I don't necessarily think that anyone was too frustrated or mad with this decision. I mean, anyone who calls it a highway robbery doesn't know what they're talking about. Just because you watch one big fight a year, which so happened to be this one, and you decide you're a boxing expert, does not make you one. This was not a highway robbery. Anyone who thinks it was is wrong. Like I said yesterday when talking with Tate, you want to see a highway robbery? Watch any Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. fight. That's highway robbery. Okay? This fight could have went either way. The judges seem to have given Canelo a lot of those middle rounds like I did. And then again, a couple of them gave him that 12th round, which didn't make sense to me, so that's a bit of a head scratcher there. But I'm not willing to say the fight was rigged. Triple G, if he would have turned it on the way he did in the last few rounds earlier on in the fight, would have won this fight. He took too long to get it going. Canelo was the aggressor. Canelo was throwing the combos. Canelo was hitting him hard. Triple G, yes, was hitting him with the jab, but he wasn't hitting him with too many combinations. It wasn't going for the body at all. And again, I don't get why De La Hoya feels the need to do this. It seems like De La Hoya is basically trying to become the next top businessman in boxing. Basically trying to become Floyd Mayweather. And that'll never happen. De La Hoya will never be Floyd Mayweather. De La Hoya will never be the businessman that Floyd Mayweather is. I cannot stand De La Hoya just because, like I said, he is a diva. Okay? I mean, are you seriously releasing a letter like this? Did they really get to you that bad? And it seems they did. I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't get it at all. And again, it makes it seem all much more worse since he felt the need to have to address it. But I mean, let's Oscar De La Hoya for you. Let's not act like he's the purest guy in the sport of boxing, because he's not. I mean, let's call it like it is. Boxing is definitely corrupt. I don't think this fight was rigged or anything like that. I don't think the fight was fixed. But De La Hoya, I'll just leave it at that, okay? So we got Champions League going on tonight. Well, not tonight, during the middle of the day, at least here in the United States. Let's take a look at the games going on today. You got Barcelona versus PSV Eindhoven. That's going to be a bit of a fun one there. You got Inter Milan versus Tottenham. Monaco versus Atletico Madrid. Bruges versus Borussia Dortmund. You got Galatasaray versus Moscow. Lokomotiv Moscow, not CSK. Liverpool versus Liverpool versus PSG. Napoli versus Red Star. And then you got Schalke versus Porto. Tomorrow, we got a bunch of games going on. Let's see, for tomorrow's matches, you got Ajax versus Athens. Shakhtar versus Hoffenheim. Benfica versus Bayern Munich. City versus Leon. Madrid versus Roma. Juventus versus Valencia. Moscow, CSKA Moscow versus Victoria Plzen. Young Boys versus United. And those are the Champions League matches for this week. I mean, I'm most looking forward to Barca versus PSV and then Tottenham versus Inter. I think those are going to be the two best matches of the week. Also PSG Liverpool too. I don't know how I forgot that one, but either way, I mean, I can't wait for the Champions League finally back. And let's see, any other news going on in the soccer world before we move on from it. I mean, not much else going on. The USA still doesn't have a head coach. I'm not sure what they're waiting for. But either way, there's that. Let's take a look at the NBA, see if there's anything going on there. Jimmy Butler tweeted yesterday, basically calling out the media for saying he had a meeting yesterday. Says it's not yesterday, it's today. Jimmy Butler, man. I mean, I don't get these NBA players. Brent Barry is joining the Spurs in a front office job. We talked about Dwayne Wade coming back. Kevin Durant says that. And he joked about joining the Rams, given how good of a team they got. I mean, go ahead and do that just so we got a little bit more, just so other teams have a chance in the NBA, please. But I think that's pretty much it. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up here for today. Today we talked Monday Night Football, MLB, more NFL news, and talked a lot about this segment about De La Hoya. So thanks for listening to the GSMC Sports Podcast. As always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. I will be back tomorrow, so stay tuned, and I will talk to you guys later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.